Welcome to another episode of Vibration Translation. Here is episode 3 of the Mystical Translation series. I am so glad to have you here. Today we are going to talk about embarrassment. I know, what a topic. So, grab your tea, grab your drink. Today I'm having a nice peach black tea. Go on your walk, go, be on your drive, be in your chair, do some cleaning around the house, whatever you're feeling is sparking your interest today. And we're going to get started. So I'm just going to do a little bullet point list of what we're going to cover today about embarrassments. And granted, this is all from my perspective, my point of awareness. So I encourage always every video, comment section down below on YouTube and on the podcasting platforms, the streaming platforms, go in the comments. Let me know what your perspectives of embarrassment are, right? I'm speaking from my perspective of how I have experienced embarrassment for myself and observed it within society, its use within society, the word embarrassment, and how that feeling is prevalent. So, with that being said, here's what we're going to cover: the definitions and why we feel embarrassment, and different kinds of embarrassment, and why it's good to do things that are embarrassing, and also how embarrassment is a metaphorical perspective on the world. And additionally, a curious effect about doing things that are embarrassing and the fine line between embarrassment and admiration of something. Okay, well, that being said, let's get into the episode. Okay. Have a lot to say about embarrassment, and I want this to just be a flow. So nothing extremely tightly structured, but allowing, the authenticity of the words that want to come through me to come through me. Because this is what I want to promote for everybody, for, what we're truly feeling and experiencing within ourselves to be fully embodied and expressed within our beings. So in the name of authenticity, I want to say that I am feeling quite nervous right now. Recording myself on camera and my ideas is quite nerve-wracking for me sometimes. And there's a potential for a flood of insecurity to come up right now and stop me from even making this video. There's that potential for that. And there's also a potential for a different approach towards ourselves, which is a much more loving and supportive voice within ourselves. I believe we all have this internal kind of battle between our self-critic and our self-supporter. And how I want to show up within my videos, within my channel, is to be an embrace and embodiment of that self-supporter and that self-love and that unconditional love that ultimately spills out into the fabric of this video itself, That's the energy that I want to embody, and that's the energy that I want to transmute, that's woven the fabric of this video. I don't want myself to be here and allow anxiety to eat me up. And I want myself to be here in play and in joy and in love and approaching all the parts of myself in that way. And so this was impromptu for me to say, but I felt like sharing and expressing that because that's really important to me. And so, honestly, this is a great intro because this is why we're talking about embarrassment. I feel like it's really important to talk about because embarrassment is literally a fear tactic. Oh, don't do that. That's going to be embarrassing. Oh, don't say things this way. That's embarrassing. Or, oh, you should be formulating yourself to come off in this way because this is how you're going to be perceived in the best way. And you should do all these psychology tricks to make people like you best because things are going to work out for you. And, social acceptance and social belonging go hand in hand. So you need to, you need to be acting in a way that's acceptable and acting in a way that's allowed and going with the group and not overstepping things because it's risky to try to go out of the bounds of what the collective mainstream has decided to be a realm of okay behavior, and also pedestalizing people that are with confidence, people that walk with confidence, and people that exude confidence. We put these people on a pedestal. And so the curious effect that I wanted to mention was that there is a fine line between something being seen as embarrassing and something being seen as admirable. For example, there's that popular video going around TikTok right now, which is the guy, the viral Bon Jovi fan dancing at the Celtics game. And literally it's posted on the Bon Jovi official YouTube page, I believe. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend you seeing it because it brings much joy to me to watch it. But people can have various reactions to this video, and you can see it in the comments section as well. You know, this guy, he's dancing down the stairs of the Celtics game when a Bon Jovi song comes on, and he is just completely expressing himself to the max, like just such a burst of expression, embodying that fully, and then inviting other people and interacting with other people in that video, you know, singing with them. And one guy even tries to kick him down the stairs because he doesn't like him, you know. But you go down to the comment section, and one comment I saw was a person saying, imagine the walk of shame back up those stairs. You know, and words like shame and self-consciousness go hand in hand with embarrassment. You should be embarrassed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. And so that comment saying, oh, imagine the walk of shame, and then it had quite a few, you know, likes. Imagine the walk of shame back up those stairs, where that's the lens, that's the perspective of embarrassment the person is taking on. Because in that situation, they feel like, and a lot of other people agree with him, that a person should schematically feel embarrassed after such a personal expression of authenticity. Because number one, this dude took up a lot of attention, a lot of eyes were on him, the camera was on him, he was being recorded, which he probably didn't even know he was being recorded, but he was being recorded, and all these people are watching him. Nobody else in the stadium is dancing like he's dancing, assumingly, right? So, I mean, this authentic expression, something that really just authentically wanted to come out of him, because you can just tell from that video, it emits a lot of light. And because it emits a lot of light, it gets a lot of eyes on him. And whenever something gets a lot of eyes on you, it's usually going to be polarizing. A lot of people are going to have a lot of perspectives of you. A lot of people are going to have a lot of perceptions of you. And especially if you're doing something that literally nobody on that stadium is dancing, you're the only person dancing. Like, okay, why are you dancing, dude? You know, why, that's not what everybody else is doing. Why are you trying to do something different than us? It's ultimately threatening to the individual that's not dancing and doesn't feel secure within themselves, and perhaps wants to dance but has already suppressed and restrained that part of themselves for so long that they just push it away within themselves, and they're going to push that person away, try to kick them down the stairs like that one dude tried to in the video. Like, literally, go watch the video. Like, literally, the dude that was trying to kick him internally suppressed that part of himself, and internally kicked away that part of himself that would want to express in that kind of joy, and outwardly kicked the guy that was doing that expression. So now let's go to the definition of what embarrassing says, as per the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition. So on the definition, if you just Google it, Merriam-Webster, this is what it says. Embarrassing, causing a feeling of self-conscious confusion and distress. The archaic definition is to hamper or impede a person, movement, or action. Now, when you go back to the origins of the word, which always go back to the origins because it's gonna lead you down a little fascinating realization most often, is that in the late 16th century, it has been believed to be used originally in reference to animals being restrained by a cord or a leash, and the word was called embarrasser, an embarrasser. So an embarrasser was used to restrain by a cord or a leash an animal, to embarrass an animal, right? The cord or the leash are the symbolic representations of what an embarrasser is, or what an embarrasser refers to restrain by a cord or a leash. Embarrasser. Need I say more? It's incredibly revealing once we go back to the 16th century definition. Let me just repeat this again. In reference to animals being restrained by a cord or leash. Now from that, we can make a bunch of connections, right? Now, why I said that embarrassment is a metaphorical perspective on the world is that it can be seen as a lens of restrainment, as a prevalent lens of restrainment, secured in society by cumulative agreement of what is cringe, strange, and thus isolating. And so there's the cycle that happens, and the cycle is of isolating behaviors as embarrassing. So those who venture to perform them, like that guy dancing at for the Bon Jovi song, will be seen or will be giving off secondhand embarrassment, so that the people around the person that's doing that behavior that has been isolated are now feeling secondhand embarrassment for that dude. Because clearly he's bringing upon himself shame and embarrassment by doing something that's already been agreed upon to be strange, weird, isolating, just embarrassing. Don't do that, you know? So it is a perspective on the world that is governed by restrainment. And it goes straight back to that 16th century definition. And so, you know, we've been societally speaking, you know, things that are, you know, societally or socially embarrassing or cringe, and they appear within common situational schemas, like dancing when nobody else is dancing, or doing some kind of move that nobody else is doing, or tripping in front of like the entire auditorium. I think especially the example of tripping over something in front of a large audience of people is just the prime example of something being schematically, just a prime schematic example of something just being socially embarrassing, right? So I said that there were different kinds of embarrassment. Now, that's kind of hard to distinguish, but how I organize this for myself is that there's socially embarrassing things and then more personally embarrassing things. They are hard to take apart because they're tied together by social factors, right? You're usually embarrassed after being seen, or you can think of something to be embarrassing to be seen by other people, but not necessarily so much so when you're just by yourself and not seen by anybody. Like, for example, with the tripping example, there's a relief of the oncoming feeling of embarrassment if no one actually saw you trip. So, you know, you trip over and then you look around and you find out that nobody actually saw you trip, then the rising feeling of embarrassment subsides because nobody saw you trip. Or perhaps you are still feeling embarrassment, more personally embarrassed about your own ability to walk. And now the inner critic comes online, right? This more of this personally embarrassing factor comes on where you're self-conscious. It's not necessarily cringe because other people didn't see you. It's more like you're just self-conscious because, oh my gosh, can I not walk right? But the feeling of embarrassment is most likely in that situation for you extremely subsided because other eyes were not watching, right? Embarrassment is brought on or extremely amplified by other eyes watching and perceiving you. So personal embarrassment has to do with being perceived. Specifically, it is a feeling of exposure to the parts of yourself you want hidden. So we don't want to compromise how we are perceived by revealing a part of ourselves we want to be hidden. You know, and we specifically want a certain part of ourselves to be hidden because we feel like it's going to dramatically affect how we are being perceived. And as social beings, perceptions, what other people think of us, how we're going to be accepted, how we're going to belong. I mean, these things, especially in our modern day society, likely take up a lot of your brain power throughout the day. Yeah, certainly mine. And that has dramatically subsided for me, yet it is still there, right? Now, some examples of personally embarrassing things from my experience, things I'm self-conscious about, have to do with something I call identity disruptors. So identity disruptors are certain behaviors you take or things for me personally, things I post on the internet that no longer fit into the definitions of the old self. So here are two examples. One of them is light language. Oh my gosh. I believe I kept in the part in the mystical translation series episode 2. I believe I kept in that video a part of me where I was a part of the video where I was doing light language. I was speaking in light language. And I remember when I was watching that video, I paused at that part and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want people to see this. I don't want people to see that I express light language. So for me, with the feeling of personal embarrassment comes a feeling of needing to explain my decisions in the fear of being seen as crazy, weird, strange, socially rebellious, even, all these things, again, that come back to the root of feeling like I might not belong if I don't explain myself well, if I don't portray or have other people perceive me well, right? Where we waste so much of our energy trying to please others' perceptions of us, along with the collective consensuses that keep changing about what is acceptable or not. And they are changing because of people that step in between that fine line of this is going to be either like everybody's going to think I'm an embarrassment or everybody's going to admire me, or half and half. People that are brave enough to really step up and be authentic. That's what I believe. But currently, consensus has a lot of embarrassment stories tied to it. So one example for me is that light language. I didn't want to keep it in that video. And honestly, I don't remember if I did. I might have even deleted it. I honestly didn't watch that video again because I feel like I'm going to have secondhand embarrassment from me watching that video of myself doing the light language and posting it, knowing that my family can see it, my friends can see it, people around that know me can see it, the public can see it, and it's not something that's common right now. It's not something that a lot of people understand right now. And I know it's growing in popularity, but it's still it's also not something that's super understandable to the human mind, It's meant to surpass language in order to communicate vibrationally, right? And because it's something that is harder to explain, that even puts me in more so of a paralysis, or has the potential to put me in more so of a paralysis because of that feeling of needing to explain myself. Another point of embarrassment that can happen within a personal identity disruption of mine is wearing makeup. Now, I have not been wearing makeup. Now, lipstick, I've been wearing lipstick, but in terms of, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I sure have noticed, I put on mascara for this video for this reason. It's on my face. If I'm looking a little different, that's probably why. And now if my mom saw me wearing this mascara, she's going to notice and she's going to be like, oh, you put on mascara. And now I'm going to have a feeling of, oh, I need to explain myself because I don't want to be embarrassed, or I don't want to reveal why I'm wearing this mascara or something like that. That when people do identity disrupting things to their appearance or in their behaviors, other people are going to surely notice, and it's going to kind of imply that you have to explain why you're doing something different because people aren't used to you being a certain way or expressing certain things. So now explain, please, to us, explain, why are you doing this? And that's a common thing that can happen, or at least that is a common fear of mine as well. With the makeup, I don't wear makeup. I haven't worn makeup in years besides, this little lipstick, because I don't really consider this as much of makeup. And so I don't want to identify myself as a person who doesn't wear makeup, but, I kind of have been. Whenever makeup comes into the conversation, what's going to be my thing that I say? Oh, I don't wear makeup, so I don't know anything about makeup. This identity based on our habits. And so to break the identity based on our habits, do something different, wear something differently, and see how that makes you feel. And if you have that feeling of personal embarrassment, come on. Now, this is a good segue into why is it good to do things that are embarrassing. I'll tell you, because in doing things that you find either personally embarrassing or socially embarrassing, you are surpassing boundaries and self-restraint, that around things you find personally embarrassing, and also negative social, negative here. Negative social restrainment, around things that are socially embarrassing. You're surpassing the boundaries of these things within your own self. You're allowing yourself more freedom by going through this feeling of embarrassment, of shame, of self-consciousness. You're going through this feeling, by going through it, that's how you surpass these boundaries. Self-restrainment and social restrainment. Also, you are showing other people that these boundaries, these restraints, these embarrassers that they leash around themselves don't have to be present and ruling their life and their decisions and their thoughts and eating up all their brain energy every day, all day. So it's good to do things that are embarrassing because it allows you to feel all of the things that keep you stuck within the boundary, right? And I'm repeating myself a lot here because this is important. At least from my perspective, this is really important. And again, when we go through the feeling of something, it's important to hold ourselves with love and give ourselves patience and grace. And ultimately, it is a perspective on the world of what is allowed of you to be expressed. And you no longer have to hold the perspective of all these boundaries and restrictions on what you need, of what you are allowed to have be expressed of you. And ultimately, the things that are embarrassing for you now, by feeling through them, by breaking those boundaries of them, are no longer going to be embarrassing. So that guy, that Bon Jovi dancing guy in the Celtics game, there's a parallel reality of him where he walks up those stairs and feels complete embarrassment around everybody looking at him and at him expressing himself. And there's a reality of that guy where he's completely embraced in joy and love for allowing himself to express himself in that natural way he wanted to in that moment. Even if the outside reality and the people looking at him had some nasty looks to give him or some nasty words to say about him. He's inside of his own vessel, inside of his own energy field, able to contain the feeling of elation and joy and bliss and a love that is built by allowing oneself to truly express oneself authentically. And so especially when you feel that fear building up a lot, right, to a very intense feeling, that's when those boundaries, are being tapped, are being plucked, are being expanded, are about to be broken. And so within this process of doing things that are embarrassing for you, personally, or, in social scenarios and socially embarrassing things are absorbed to be personally embarrassing things, but there's a bit of a difference, because, for one person it's not embarrassing, for another person it's embarrassing. Like the makeup thing, it's like, why would I be embarrassed about wearing makeup? Everybody wears makeup, it's a socially acceptable thing. But for myself personally, this is something way out of my identity. So there's a bit of a distinction there if you catch on to it. At least I believe there is. But yeah, when you're about to just break the boundary of that embarrassing thing, there may come that feeling of intense fear and embarrassment and self-consciousness and whatnot. But to be able to feel that feeling and get out of the story of what other people are perceiving and thinking about you, really get into that feeling with yourself and hold yourself in that feeling. And also, if you need to take a step back and relax and don't force yourself, don't force yourself too much. And when approaching this, it's important to develop things like self-compassion, because you're really the only one that gets to truly and fully hold all the parts of yourself. Because even if you have like a really good relationship with your partner, for example, they may see things about you that they don't accept, and they can't fully love just at this moment right now, because that's a process within themselves that's going on. So it's important for you to be able to accept that part of yourself first so you can lead the way, right? So this is the way of love, basically, to be cheesy at the end of this video here. And self-compassion will not lead to laziness and not wanting to do things and just relaxing at your house forever. Self-compassion will lead to going through those boundaries because you love yourself. Feeling that fear and feeling that scared little girl or boy inside of you because you love yourself, because you want to embrace that part of yourself. And yeah, so do something that's embarrassing for you. It was embarrassing for me to wear this mascara, but now it's not embarrassing to wear it. And some things may be harder to to get out of the lens of embarrassment. For example, for me, the personal example is light language. Like, I still feel, oh my God, I can't believe I posted that, you know? And that's okay. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm off to editing this video because I did a lot of talking because I had so much to say, and I really hope this flowed how it needed to flow, you know? And I hope I was a good channel for this video today, and I will see you on another episode. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment, leave a rating, and see you next episode. Bye.